So today I'll talk a little bit about storytelling in games, and I'll try to offer up a brief analysis of a few games, just to look at how a few games tell stories differently. Just to recap, we've been working with Aristotle and the way he describes and poses models for different kinds of stories. And to sum up, he has 6 characteristics, 6 elements of stories that you could focus on when you're trying to develop a story and develop a universe. And first off, he talks about the plot and the chain of events that make up the story. And he talks about the characters that inhabit the world of the story, the characters that drive the story forward. He's talking about the theme of the story and the diction, the lines of the characters and the way the lines are spoken. He talks about the melody and the sounds, the sound effects and the soundtrack. He talks about the decor, the visuals, the way the world looks. And he talks about spectacle, the special effects, and all the big things that happen in many stories, and indeed so in games as well. And the kind of story that Aristotle is talking about is the linear story, the story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But when you're talking about games, something is added to this mix, and that's choice. In many games, you as a player get to choose how the story progresses. So let's look at a few games. Here's a rather peculiar one first. A game called Dear Esther. This game is a ghost story. It's not really that interactive. It's about being there, about experiencing the atmosphere. There's a story that's being told as you progress through the island, but the story is mostly the trip, the hike, the walk around the island and experiencing the atmosphere and the different settings, and a slight touch of mystery added to it all. So this is not so much about choosing how the story progresses, but as experiencing the world of the story. It's not that much about plot. It's not that much about characters. There's no characters really except yourself. It's very much about theme. It's about melody. The sounds and the music plays a very huge role in telling this story. The decor is very important. The visuals, the way you experience this deserted island. There's not much in regard of spectacle. So it's a pretty unusual story. And there's a very familiar story, really. This is Uncharted 2.
What's going on? That's my blood. That's my blood. It's a lot of my blood.
So Uncharted is this huge action adventure that reminds you of Indiana Jones and Tintin, and it's all about finding these hidden treasures and fighting these evil bad guys. It's much about plot, but it's a very linear plot. You don't get to choose how the plot progresses, but you just follow the line from A to B to C. It's a lot about character as well. The main character, Nathan Drake, is quite important. He needs to be sympathetic. You need to sympathize with him and understand the peril he's always finding himself in and want to get him out of there. The theme, this action adventure finding hidden treasure theme, is known from a lot of other media, both movies and literature, and also games. The diction, the way Nathan speaks, and the credibility of him as a character is very much in the way he talks, and the voice acting is very important in this. Also spectacles. You can see that he's waking up, he's been shot, and he's in a train that's hanging over a cliff, and it's all very big and spectacular. So that's a big part of the Uncharted games.
Let's take a look.
Shepard, excellent timing. Good to have you here. More? Indeed. Can exchange proper greetings later. Need to hurry now. Females had weakened immune systems. Most didn't survive.
You let them die?
You're the smartest scientist I know. You couldn't save them?
Did everything I could. Multiple treatment attempts. Wasn't enough. One survivor left, though. Need to get her off-world.
She's still here?
Yes. Placed her in protective isolation. Recommend gentle approach. Krogan slow trust.
I don't need her trust.
I'm Commander Shepard, Alliance Navy.
Are you here to kill me?
Of course not.
We're here to take you home.
Why?
And there's Mass Effect, this big, huge space soap that builds on long tradition in science fiction and adds a lot to this science fiction as well. Plot is a huge thing. You get to choose how the plot progresses as you make different decisions, small and large decisions, all throughout all three games, and they all have consequences in the game. Characters are very important. You sympathize with the main character, but also a lot of the different characters you meet throughout the game, and it's a huge cast. And very many of those characters you are actually interested in what happens with those characters. You want to save them, so they play a very huge role in the game. The theme, the science fiction theme that we know from Star Wars and from literature, and there's a lot of things that we can recognize if we know something about science fiction, but there's also a lot of new stuff. The theme is a huge way of creating a particular atmosphere in this game. And also, of course, the decor, the visuals, and the spectacle. There's a lot of very, very large set pieces where you fight huge aliens that travel through space, or when you enter the Citadel, which is this space base. When you enter that the first time, you're awestruck because it's also very huge and spectacular. So that's three very different games, three very different stories, and three very different ways of telling the story as well.